Welcome back to Bull Sessions here on 680 KFEQ. Here's your hosts, Randy Baker and agronomist Brad Law.
Okay, we're back open for business.
We are. Well, I'm here.
What are you texting about?
Well, I'm not texting. I'm going through my phone here, and I'm looking for something on YouTube.
Okay.
I'm on this channel that I created.
Did you forget Frank's on the phone?
Yes, and I'm trying to say when we had Frank on here last time.
Oh, okay.
And that you had the chance to, work with him, and
you are not going to let go
here
of
it
this.
is. We had it on the 12th of November. He was on here, and had your beans even been cut by then?
No.
So they were cut after that, and then
Probably.
the 20-something of November, the market took off, and you missed out of $1.07.
Miles, can you cut his mic off?
I gotta let him talk, man. I'm sorry.
I understand.
You take jabs at him, he takes jabs at you. It's how it works.
I know.
You know, what happened to all the love we talked about here at the end of the year, and now we're in the new year, and I don't see much change, Bradley.
Well, farming's a brutal, brutal game,
Yeah.
and so is radio.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Focus on the farmers coming up here in a little bit,
Yep.
too. But we want to get Frank back on the air.
All right.
Talk to us, Frank.
So just to kind of, wrap up what I was looking at with the beans, I'm just thinking there's more downside in beans. Corn looks like it wants to break out to the upside here, and I think that's going to reflect the short-term going into planting environment where you're going to see guys make that, if not, I don't know if they make it at the end of the day, but the trade is going to focus on this idea that corn needs to go higher and beans need to go lower in order to keep the acreage balance kind of together. And well, like I was saying, I continue to hear from farmers who they might not be talking about themselves. They might be talking about the guy down the way or, someone else's banker, but that the banker doesn't want to finance all the inputs of corn this year, and where, beans are much more profitable, and the corn is. And I think R.J. O'Brien, they provide all the brokers with a research suite. And one of the things that one of the other brokers had said was that right now, this is in Iowa, 2017 guaranteed price for beans will be $60 to $65 an acre. That's up 12% versus last year.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, did you hear that, Bradley?
Yes, more money.
Well,
Guaranteed.
It appears that way.
Well, and I think that when we get these spring prices set for crop insurance, that's going to, guys will start deciding once that is, then acres will get placed because there's some rent deals that aren't even figured out right now.
Right.
There's a lot of, there's land up in the air, and we're seeing that, some guy said, well, I know I'm going to have this many acres, but I got this many more acres that I need to talk to the landlords on. And they've got to get that figured out. And they got to have the land first, decide if they're going to plant corn or beans on it. That's the,
Right.
And if how much can I pay for rent and which crop am I going to plant? It's going to depend on, okay, if you're doing that insurance game, okay, what's my guarantee if I plant corn? What's my guarantee if I plant soybeans? That's a huge deal. And the banker wants that. So if you can pencil me a profit, he's going to be okay. If you're going to pencil him a loss, he's not going to be interested. That's just...
He'll want to know why you didn't talk to Frank, Bradley.
Right. And Randy's just, Randy's going to have to buy his banker more flowers.
I am. And pay for it.
And pay for it.
Yes. What else you got? What are you thinking now, Frank?
Well, I think in the short term, everything is going to lean on South American weather. If right now Argentina went from being too dry to too wet, and Brazil is seeing a little too much dryness. So I think that's what's going to drive us in the near term. The one thing going on in corn that is going to kind of be a sideways, not sideways, but just a fundamental, but not something you can predict. But supposedly the index funds, when they do their redemptions, they're going to be buying 60 to 100,000 contracts of corn. Now, as exciting as that sounds, this corn market is very efficient at accepting that sort of size. So I don't think it's necessarily a super bullish input, but it is something to kind of be aware of. And then again on the chart side, kind of broke out above the downtrend line today, poked our heads above there, and right now the near-term targets would probably be somewhere between 360 and 390. I'd like to see it move to 390 going into the March report, and then we can kind of figure it out from there.
I've had several people that I've talked to lately. They've been concerned about the U.S. relation with China and wondering how that's going to affect exports. Any insight on that?
Well, I think the biggest component is going to be weird. Not, I guess weird would be the wrong word, but I think it's a lot of hype versus what reality might end up looking like. I think at the end of the day, it really is just going to come down to the export market. If we're the cheapest export, if we're the cheapest on the export market, cheaper than South America, they're still going to come and buy from us. If South America becomes cheaper, they're going to buy from South America. I think at the end of the day, they don't want to do anything that is going to disrupt their food supply. I mean, they don't want to have an Arab, not just call it an Arab Spring, but something along those lines that would happen in 2011. I mean, there's the old saying, a country is only 3 missed meals away from a revolution, and the Chinese government doesn't want to have anything like that. So I think there's going to be a lot of hype around it, but at the end of the day, as long as we'll still sell it to them and we're the cheapest grain on the market, they're going to continue to buy from us.
Yep, I agree totally. That you don't want hungry people anywhere.
Well, you've seen those Snickers commercials where people get hangry. They get to be divas, and good things do not happen.
Tell us a little about planning, Frank.
I think at the end of the day, it's going to come down to, like we kind of said, it is what's making you money, and I think it's really going to be, unfortunately, driven more by the banker than it has been in the past. I think the banker's really going to be concerned if you're bringing home, if you're taking home a profit this year, especially like in corn. Corn has now finished the year lower 4 years in a row, and that's becoming concerning for a lot of guys who have are sitting on a lot of corn and haven't necessarily moved it yet. So I think right now I really think that soybeans are going to be the preferred seed going into the planting, unless we see a tremendous shift in price from here.
It'd take a huge weather event, wouldn't it?
It would take a huge, something that could be extremely bullish corn and extremely bearish soybeans, which I don't know what that would be for the situation to look like it's going to change in the next 12 weeks here.
You was talking about South America there a little bit. Have you heard any kind of estimated bushels on soybeans that they're talking about?
The main story isn't. I guess I don't want to say it's bushels. It's just that everything looks like it's off to a great start. The Brazilian market looks like it could be record in terms of production. Now, one thing in Argentina, there's 2 stories coming out of Argentina. That's more of what we need to take a look at is They may not finish all the planting because there are areas that are just sitting on too much water. I've seen anywhere from 5 to 15% of the crop may not get planted. You have to take it with a grain of salt because I think we found out 2 weeks ago that Argentina's ag minister came out and said they've been lying about their production numbers for the last handful of years in order to keep the export market away.
They've been in the coffee shop.
Yeah. President Macri in Argentina, though, he came out, this is from January 2nd, that Argentina is going to lower its export tax half a point per month starting in 2018 all the way to 2020, which would be a 12%. They're looking at a 12% drop to 18%. So right now they're at 30% export tax. So they wanted to get it down to 20 or 18% by 2020, which would then really create more of a soybean-friendly market in Argentina, where you would see acreage go up there, and they would be moving the beans much more on the export side.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, it always amazes me from the agronomist side of how guys can to estimate all these acres when, people ask me to look at a bean field and say, well, what's them beans going to make? And I tell them it's going to make beans.
Right.
That's good.
Somewhere between, 25 and 70, is my conservative estimate, give or take 20%.
We'll be back here in a minute. Frank, we got to go again. We're going to be talking about Focus on the Farmer, but we'll talk about all that and more when we come back to Bull Sessions on 680 KFEQ.